Now, let us move on to the transaction logic. As we have discussed before, Pharma Ledger contract will need three business functions to move equipment owner from manufacturer to wholesaler and finally to pharmacy. So these are the three functions which depicts the three business functions that we need to do the transaction. So the manufacturer will be initialized with an equipment entry and manufacturer creates that entry. As you will notice, these function accept a context as a default parameter, which you can see here. So all these method has one common parameter, which is context. So we have discussed what we will get out of context in the previous session. So as you will notice, there are functions that accept as a context as a default first parameter with the equipment related arguments. So these are the equipment related arguments and the context. These are the context and equipment related arguments. So these are the client inputs that we have to receive as part of making this asset on the blockchain, or doing some transaction or doing some modification on top of the asset. When make equipment is called, the function expects four attributes, which is manufacturer, equipment number, equipment name, and owner name. And these are the attributes that forms the attributes of the asset, which we are going to put it inside the blockchain. Now, let us open this make equipment. So this is a function. As you can see, this is one method that we have written over here, which is make equipment. So it is called by the manufacturer, and manufacturer adds the equipment that he has manufactured in his company. So we have got manufacturer, equipment number, equipment name, owner name as the property that we need to add it as an attribute to the asset. So now let us create an object out of it. Before that, there is let dt, which is date and time, and we are gonna take that from new date, which is a object that is already available in JavaScript. So this will give the date and time. So we need to capture the date and time when this particular asset has been created by the manufacturer. So that is why we are taking the date and time. Now we are going to take equipment number, which is this one, manufacturer, which is this one, and equipment name, which is the argument this one, and owner name, which is the last parameter. Now previous owner type is manufacturer, because manufacturer is the first person who is producing this asset, which is he is producing this equipment, and current owner is manufacturer because now the transaction has not been initiated by the manufacturer to pass on the equipment to the next organization. So that is why the current owner is also manufacturer. So created date and time, as we have captured here, we are going to put that value inside create date and time, and last updated time will also be the same as the updated time over here, captured time over here. Now this is an interesting statement. Await ctx.stub put state equipment name, equipment number, which is what we have got here, and we are gonna do something like buffer dot from, then JSON stringification of this equipment object that we have created, and we are going to feed that to buffer, and that we are going to store it against the equipment number. So now let us see what this is. Now cts.stub.putState, it will store the equipment initial state value with the equipment number as a key. So this is a key that is used as to identify this particular object, and this is the equipment number key that is used on the ledger. The equipment JSON data that is stringified. So this is the equipment JSON data, and it is stringified using JSON.stringify, and then we are going to convert it into buffer. So to understand clearly, you are going to feed the equipment object that you have created over here. Then we are going to JSON.stringify it. Then the output of the JSON.stringified, you are going to give it to buffer. So why you need to make it to JSON? Why you need to convert it to buffer format? Why can't you just give it in the JSON or the stringified JSON format? This is required because the buffer conversion is very much required by the shim API, which is the ctx.stub, whatever we are using. This is the requirement of the shim API to communicate with the peer. So this is the context, and it is giving a method stub, and put state is the method that we are using in order to put the asset using this identifier, which is equipment number, and the object which we have created, which is nothing but an asset. So the function uses this new date, which we have already seen. When the transaction data is submitted, each peer will validate and commit the transaction, which we will see programmatically how it will happen in the coming lecture. So after this, so once the client calls this method, so the equipment will be recorded by the manufacturer, and the and this means that an asset, the equipment asset, has been created on the blockchain. Now moving on, so this completes making an equipment by the manufacturer. Now let us move on to wholesale distributor. So this is wholesale distributor function. As we have told before, we are taking CTX, which is context, as the first parameter, and we are getting equipment number and owner name. So in the wholesale distribute function, we first query the current equipment ledger by calling ctx.stub get state equipment number. So we are passing equipment number. Here we are trying to query the ledger by calling this function. So get state is the function that we are calling to get the details of that asset with this particular equipment number. So once the data returns, so here is where the data that is returned from this particular method, which is get state. Once it is returned, once the data is returned, we need to make sure that the equipment as byte, which you can see here, is not empty, which means if it is empty, which means there is no asset with this equipment number. So we need to check whether it is empty or not. That is what we are doing in this particular statement in line number 77. So we are checking whether the equipment as bytes is 0 or not, the length is 0 or not. So we are going to check whether it is a valid number. Since the ledger data is in JSON string byte format, it is needed to convert encoded data to readable JSON format by using buffer.from.toString UTF format. So here we have got that the value exists. This is not a null value. So if it is a null value, this will throw an error. If it is not a null value, then we are converting it into the buffer. We are converting whatever the record that we have got. So it needs to be converted to a readable JSON format. And to convert to the readable JSON format, we are going to use this. So we are going to use this kind of line, which is constant string value buffer dot from equipment as byte to string. Now we got now we are going to pass it. So we got the value. So here is the string value that you have got. So now you are going to parse it using json.parse, and you are going to check whether the current type is manufacturer or not. So this means you are checking whether it is manufactured by the manufacturers or not, which means like first in the first stage it has to be in the manufacture state, it has to be produced by the manufacturer. If it is already available with the pharmacy, which means you are looking into wholesaling that particular equipment which is already in the state, which is already acquired by somebody else. So that is why you have to check whether the current owner is manufacturer or not. If the current owner is not manufacturer, then you cannot distribute the same equipment again to some other organization. So this will give an error. So after that, then we are going to set the current previous owner, which is manufacturer, and we are going to set it to current owner, which is which is the current owner that you get it from this record. Then you are going to set record.current owner type to wholesaler. Why? Because you are distributing this to wholesaler. So that is why in the current transaction, that is wholesaler distribute whatever the transaction that you have executed, the current owner is wholesaler. And then record.owner name is again the owner name that you have received as part of this as part of the parameters that you have received for this method. Then record dot last name is dt, which is the name, which is the date that you have got from the new date method. So after this, if there is any exception that happens during the creation of this record, you will enter into this catch phase where the error is received, and it will throw an error giving the logs why this cannot be processed. If there is no error, then you will go to next section, which is await ctx dot put state, which is the same what we have done in this function, which is await ctx dot stub dot put state. The same method will be called, and you are gonna replace that particular equipment name. Replace in the sense you are just gonna um, modify that particular asset. Modify in the sense you are not gonna modify what is there in the blockchain, you are just modifying that asset. But and once you propagate this transaction and all the peers agrees it, this will be stored as the next modification for the asset. So that is what that means. So once this is done, once this got executed, this particular line 96 gets executed, the asset will get stored in a new owner's name, which is the new owner that we have provided here. So this completes the second stage of the transaction. Next is pharmacy received. So this again has context parameter, equipment number, owner name. So here again you are gonna get the asset using the equipment number, and again you are gonna check whether that equipment as byte is a valid value or not. So and then you are going to convert that into usable readable JSON format, and then here you are going to parse it, and then you are going to check whether the current owner is wholesaler or not. Why? Because in the previous section you have mentioned the current owner is wholesale, you have mentioned the current owner as wholesaler. Before that the current owner was manufacturer. In the next transaction the current owner become wholesaler. In this pharma receive, you have to check whether the current owner is wholesaler or not. Once you checked whether the current owner is wholesaler or not, then you can move forward. If it is not wholesaler, then you will get an error. So once you know that it is wholesaler, then you can say record.previous type is equal to record.current owner type, which you have got it from the JSON parsed value, which you have got it from the get state method. And then you are going to say record.current owner type as pharmacy, because the current owner that the asset belongs to is pharmacy. Then record dot owner type is again the parameter that you have received as part of this function. And then you are going to say record dot last update, which is the same in all the three function which you got from new date. So you have created this. So if there is any error creating creating the statements or executing the statements within the try block, you will get an error in the catch block giving the description as well in your console. If everything goes well, then again you are going to put state. So put state is a method which you have used in all the three functions, where you are changing the values or the attributes of the asset. In this statement, you are changing the asset attributes, majorly the current owner type, and the record last updated is not majorly you are changing. So all these changes which you have done in this try block will get reflected in the blockchain. So this is all about writing the transaction methods or the smart contracts methods that are present in this pharma ledger contract. You will understand how this works when we execute it properly, when we execute it as part of a flow. So this is majorly how you actually go import all the necessary libraries and make the smart contract class, and we extend the contract, and all these methods you will describe as part of the smart contract. So this is it for this lecture.